A portion of this video is sponsored by Kaspersky VPN Secure Connection. I have a comparison today, one you didn't know you needed. It's like we're taking an apple and we're taking an orange, and we're showing you the similarities here, but these are two products that are more similar than most people realize. We are talking Surface Pro 9 and M2 iPad Pro. And aside from operating system, what these two computers can do are very, very similar. Yet the approach behind them couldn't be more dissimilar. And as always, we'll pick a winner. All right, so both the Surface and iPad live and die by the same motto. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The iPad is rocking the same design that we've seen since 2018 iPad Pro refresh. So by my keen math, that is almost 5 years of the same design. This one in particular, design has stayed exactly the same. If you had an M1 iPad Pro next to an M2 iPad Pro, you would not be able to tell the difference. The Surface, on the other hand, has made some pretty big tweaks and changes over the years, but the fundamentals are the same. So the Surface kickstand, I think, is probably one of the best inventions that Microsoft had in a very long time. It makes a tablet form factor really livable. You could take the Surface around and still do all the tablet things you'd want on the media consumption side. So watch movies and TV shows, all that kind of thing. And since kickstand is built in, you don't necessarily have to have a case or anything if you don't want to, although you definitely should. I think Apple knows Microsoft on the right track because with the new 10th gen iPad and Magic Keyboard Folio, basically a ripoff of the design for the Surface that they've had for years. Just goes to show you that it was the right choice from Microsoft. Design, I think, is very subjective. The iPad looks industrial. It's incredibly thin, almost impossibly thin, giving you an all-screen, beautiful design. Surface is a bit more industrial, more functional. You've got a bunch of ports on the side for regular computer things. You've got a desktop OS, which we will talk more about, and you can fold it down into a relatively thin tablet, especially when you consider the processor that is inside of it. All these things look awesome, look incredible, but obviously very different. Aspect ratios are different. I think the intended uses are slightly different as well. When it comes time to just aesthetics and look, this one is a coin toss because it just depends on what you like. Inside, these are running the latest processing hardware. So our Surface Pro 9 has an Intel Evo i7 with 16 gigabytes of RAM. You can get this in a ton of different spec options. Microsoft's even offering an SQ3 Qualcomm processor inside, which could enable 5G. But the version that I'm talking about that I reviewed is rocking the Intel chip. With the iPad, you get one option, and it's a beast of an option. You get the new M2 processor, and that's it. This year, Apple decided to add even more power to what was already an insanely overpowered system. Not a bad thing, but you are probably not going to utilize everything this M2 processor can do. I've been using an M1 iPad Pro since it came out. I noticed 0.0 speed difference in my use case with the M1 versus the M2. Now, having said that, if you're doing pro things, if you want to use DaVinci, for example, on the iPad, then the M2 is going to be a better use, but that is probably such a small subset of people. If you are creating documents, watching video, media consumption, using apps from the App Store, I have been really hard pressed to see any difference right now between M1 and M2. And I imagine as developers get to use M2 a bit more, you'll see the headroom difference between M1 and M2, but right now, there is a negligible difference. In fact, you could probably argue that buying a used M1 is probably the much better way to go than picking up even an M2 iPad. Another huge similarity between these two is that when you buy them, the tablet's all that's in the box. No pen, no keyboard, nothing else. All of those have to be bought separately. So, okay, annoying, you gotta buy extra stuff. If you look at the price aspect of that, the Surface wipes the floor with the iPad. For $279, you can get the Surface Pro signature keyboard and the Slim Pen 2, whereas to buy the keyboard and pen for the iPad, it is going to cost $478. Now, the Apple Pencil 2, I do think is fairly priced at $129. I think it's one of the best accessories Apple has probably ever made if you're into the stylus thing, and it gives you one of the best digital writing experiences out there. But the price of the Magic Keyboard is nuts. $349 alone is way too much for what you're getting here, and it's not even a perfect keyboard either. So unlike the Surface, the iPad needs a keyboard to tilt and stand, and also, unlike the Surface, the iPad could only tilt a few degrees. As I mentioned before, I think the Surface hinge can get almost flat. Where Apple does do a bit better job though than the Surface is with the trackpad. The click is better. The Surface is still using the diving board mechanism, so it's fine, it's just not as fluid. I can't help but come back to price here, and I think I'd argue that a lot of these accessories are necessary if you are buying these devices. And in that aspect, the Surface is just a better value. So no matter which one of these you pick, you might want to watch some shows on it. Remember when you could watch The Office on Netflix? Those were the good old days. You can't do that here in the US, but you can in other regions. So if you don't want to move just to, get your Michael Scott fix, a VPN is a way to unlock content that your region cannot access, and Kaspersky VPN Secure Connection is one of the best ways to do it. So aside from unlocking new content, having a VPN is incredibly important. Not only is it going to anonymize what you are doing, if you are outside on unsecured internet connection, it's going to mask that activity. If you're logging into a bank, if you're paying a bill, all those things can easily be intercepted. It is incredible how simple that is, and a VPN is just an incredible way to keep yourself safe and protected. There are a lot of options for a VPN, and you want to pick one of the best ones. You want to pick one that has locations everywhere, and Kaspersky has you covered. So they have 90 different locations across 72 different regions. Just a really great way to keep a layer between you and folks that want to get what you have. So Kaspersky VPN Secure Connection will work on whatever device you are on, whether you're mobile or desktop. Consider a VPN. Think about what you're doing and think about the hassle it would be if somebody got your information, and it should make the decision to at least try it really easy. If you want to give it a shot and get access to a special offer, we'll have all the links down below. Now, software is probably where a lot of you have already made your mind up one way or another, and I save software last. I think this is where the iPad starts to either succeed or fall apart, depending on which camp you're in. So with the Surface, you get full Windows 11 at your disposal. That means you've got all the apps, services, and customization you are used to from any PC. It is, in the classic sense, a computer. The iPad, on the other hand, is running iPad OS 16. Now, to Apple's credit, this year they introduced Stage Manager, which is better at visualizing multitasking, but it's still just windowing the iPad apps, which we're all used to, which is still not a full desktop experience. I think that's where you have to decide. Are you willing to spend the same amount of money on an iPad as you are for a Surface? For the vast majority of people, I'm going to assume the answer is probably no. If you're in the market for a device like this, chances are you're looking for a new main machine, something that you'll probably use every day in and out for every task. And if that's you, there's no way around the fact that Apple has dropped the ball over the years with software. I still am very excited about Apple forking so the iPhone OS and iPad OS to its own thing, and I think ultimately we will see the power of the iPad. But we're not there yet. But one reason that I might think a lot of people would want the iPad Pro software of the Surface, if this is not meant to be your primary device, not meant to be your main computer. Say you have a desktop that you mainly use, or you've got a MacBook or a Windows laptop. Basically, if you're looking at the Surface or iPad to be used as a tablet, and a tablet only, the iPad is the perfect way to go. So we gotta pick a winner, and I think there are two very clear use cases. If you're looking at both of these as a dedicated machine and your only computer, something to edit on, to work on, to create content on, to watch things on, then the Surface with its full desktop OS is a much better only machine. It's a computer, it's also a tablet. It can do everything that you want. If you already have a home computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC or a laptop, and you want something to augment that experience, the iPad is pretty close to perfect for that. There's no better device for media consumption than an iPad. And Apple is trying to make it a device for media creation. I think if you are in the fringe case of living and working in the creative space, then the iPad is a very easy choice. I don't know which camp you are in, but if somebody asks me what computer they should get, my answer is generally a Microsoft Surface. And in this case with Surface Pro 9, I think it does everything really well. If you use your iPad mostly in Chrome or Safari, you still get a very similar Chrome or Safari experience on the Surface. You get a machine that can do a lot more. Now, I'm a bit disillusioned right now with the iPad. I love my iPad Pro M1, but it's only for watching videos for me right now. I see the potential and I see what it can do and I see all the crazy power Apple's given it, but you can't do anything that takes advantage of it. And I look at the Surface and I say, maybe it's not perfect. The Intel processors may be more efficient than before, but they're not as efficient as what Apple is doing. But it's still a full computer that I don't have to change my use cases for. I can just use it as I would a computer and a tablet when I want it. And with these two on a table, if I'm picking one to give me the best experience for everything, I'm gonna pick up the Surface Pro 9.